was just sort of pondering on my most recent honest conversation, and it was really profound learning, but it was very different to what everyone else is talking about. I basically had a very, very loud public row with a colleague, actually someone I manage. So it was very inappropriate, but we did then take it to one side, and it was just the two of us. And I'll tell you the end before I carry on, just in case you're worried where the story's going. We went to a really deep space together really quickly. But what was incredible to me, reflecting on it now, is that I wasn't in anything that would faintly resemble a quiet space. I wasn't like, and what I realized, I think I do a lot of making up about what a quiet space means. I was in a heartfelt space. I was heartfelt furious with him. But I also heartfelt really like working with him. But in that moment, and he was really cross with me. But in a weird way, we actually were both incredibly quiet, but not in the way that I would normally describe. And what was incredible about that conversation was that we were both very deeply honest. And like, even at one point we were, we kind of argued about the work, the things, the stuff we didn't agree on. But then we got, at one point, we were both shouting at each other, "But I really like you. I really like working with you." And it was, cathartic is one word for it, but it doesn't feel like the right word. I don't really have the right words to describe what happened. There was magic in that room between the two of us, because as we talked, because we were honest, we didn't have the outward signs of quietness, but I know that quiet's just a word we use, isn't it? I know that, like, spirit or whatever you want to call it was in that room between us, and strong, and we kind of talked ourselves down, and like we went from, "But I really like working with you," to I remember at one point I said, "But I just want us to be gentle with each other," because he was saying, "But it's okay to disagree," and I was like, "Yeah, I just want us to do it gently." And then it was like those words just came, and if you'd asked me before the conversation, as a line manager, I would have said, "Oh, I need to talk about his respect sometimes, and he needs to be more professional." But actually, gentleness was exactly what I wanted from him, and it was extraordinary that word just came in the moment, and it came out, and he could really hear that word, and he softened completely and said, "Oh, I get it. I'm really boisterous, aren't I?" And then we kind of went, like, we just carried on, and we had this just incredible conversation. And since then, our working relationship has just been phenomenal, because we're both just as annoying as we were before. We still disagree over the stuff, but we are gentle with each other. And it was really incredible. But what I'm hearing in this conversation this evening, which I really want to go away and play with, is that I think that ended up in a row because we were both holding back and hadn't been able to step up and say in a calmer way, "I don't like it when you do." And so it kind of burst out the sides when it got to kind of fever pitch. And I realised, I think, Dazzle, it was you talking, like, when you're saying your wife says, said you were negligent, and I realised that might have stung, but I'm like, oh my God, I just need to tell my husband how annoying he is. It would be, what I'm seeing is, it would be really great just to say it with that love, right? Because it at the moment it just comes out when I'm cross, and he doesn't, like, he and I haven't so far got into the kind of conversation that my colleague and I got into. And so what I'm hearing is, go and be courageous, go and have the difficult conversations, have the honest conversations, and trust in it. And And that trust, for me, there's something really trust building about the way my colleague and I had this row, because it wasn't perfect. I didn't articulate myself how, if I meditated for an hour and got into a really peaceful zone, I wouldn't, that's not how it would have been. But actually, maybe I wouldn't have said any of it, and it needed to be said. And so there's something about just trusting myself, just to be courageous, get out there, say what needs to be said. And if it's a bit rough or it's not quite right, then just that trust that somehow it will work out. Yeah.
Fantastic points. Absolutely brilliant.
Can I quickly answer? My partner, Lolly, most definitely told me the same words and all the same things over the 7 years. But it was always a row and a bust up, but it wasn't an honest. It was a frustration. It was a angry. It was a something, and it was I don't know. There was an agenda. She wanted the housework done, and she was frustrated that I wasn't doing it because I was negligent. And so the agenda was to get me to do the housework. So it just resulted in a row and a disagreement and a miscommunication or a misunderstanding of, well, yeah, but I'm doing this or I'm doing that. And when she told me, it was totally oh my god, this is do you know who you are at home? And not for me to do anything. It was just a, do you know that this is who you are? And I had no idea, of course. And I think you needed that row. I think that's great. I think I needed her to not row with me, and some people do need the row. It's all. I mean, I'm big on vibrations and frequencies at the moment, and I'm discovering my vibrations and my frequencies that I vibrate at, and everybody else vibrates at their own things, and some people vibrate at the same things, and it's all magical and wonderful. But it sounds like you two in that room were on the same frequency, angry and frustrated about the same things, and you came to understand and vibrate at the same frequency again, and that's amazing. I love that.
To have a truly honest conversation, and there's been different ways of talking through it, but what I've took out of it is we've talked about coming from a place of love and neutrality, and that's what I've seen in that, because an agenda is just a load of thinking, basically, and anytime there's a load of thinking involved, I even took from what Harriet said, because I was thinking, oh, what does that mean in context of that? Yeah, there might have been a load of thinking beforehand, and it gets quite heated with somebody, but at some point, for it to get really honest, I think things have got to come to a level, and you've got to have that love behind it and that neutrality, because if it's clouded with more thinking, that's what I've took from it. It's that you think you can have an honest conversation, but while you've got an agenda, I'm not too sure you can. While you're thinking, right, what do I want to get out of this, or what's the point I want to make, or any of that stuff, you might try and have an honest conversation, but I think one or the other of you is going to react in such a way that creates more thinking, that maybe takes you away from honesty.
I like that, Gary. What I heard in Harriet's story was that they were both, even at the height of their temper or argument, saying, I really love working with you. So there was love at the height, whatever the form looked like, the messiness of the form, there was love. And that's what enabled them both to drop and then get quiet in the storm. And what came out of Harriet, the perfect words I want you to be kinder, more gentle. I mean, I want us to be more gentle with each other. Wow, who doesn't want that? Beautiful but heartfelt, honest, just raw words that if that other person loves you, they're going to hear that and go, yeah, me too, I want to be gentle with you. But I love that the agenda is thinking too, and I love the point of it. None of it has to look a certain way. You know, we how many groups have we had? And you know, Gary, Derry, Omar, all of us have worked in groups together. How many groups have we had that are noisy and men doing press-ups on the floor? You know, I mean, just absolute chaos and mayhem. And yet that man that did the press-ups on the floor, you know, came a year, 2 years later and told us all about how he left prison and he slept in his car to enable him to go to college, and he went to college and this and that, and you just think obviously something got in despite the noise and the press-ups and the posturing, you know, because love was there, love was in the room, the intention was towards love.
Being quiet or something, it's almost actually more about being so present and true to what's there right now in an embodied way, whether that's anger or frustration or silence or whatever. It's like you were so kind of embodied with what was real for you in that moment, and it's like you weren't sort of speaking from some projection of or feeling of projection of past or future. It was like, this is what's here right now, and that's like so kind of inspiring or something. And to me, that's what sort of, in a way, being a high vibration is, when we're so embodied and present with allowing what's there in the now and just sort of not blocking the flow so it can pass through and everything can kind of rearrange and go where it wants to go, and bring things back to that kind of place of harmony. And that was really interesting to hear you sharing that, Harriet.
Nice. Made me think as well of the times when I've rowed with my husband, and in the row I know that this isn't what I want, and I know that I'm getting nasty or bitey or whatever, and that isn't really what I want to say, and that because the intention is towards love. And so the ability or the knowing in that moment of, hang on, I need time out because I've got something that I want to say, but this isn't what I want.